everybody, Gavin Shnieder here at Abode Real Estate. I wanted to make a quick video for you about preparing your sellers for the changes that are happening in the marketplace. As we all know, marketplace is rebalancing a little bit. It's not a buyer's market by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely not as insane of a seller's market as it was 6 months ago, 9 months ago. So, how do we prepare ourselves and our sellers for the changes that are happening in the market? And today I want to talk about two things specifically. One is setting the right expectations for your sellers, and the second thing is ensuring that you have the right processes in place to manage these longer listing periods. So in terms of expectation management, really got to ensure that your seller understands, what the data says their home is worth versus them kind of having some inherent feeling as to what the home is worth because of what their neighbor's house sold for, or how much they want for the house, right? How much they want for the house doesn't matter. How much the data says their home is worth matters more. So in this changing market, really got to show them picture for picture, house for house, how we're analyzing the value of their home and why we're recommending whatever list price that we're recommending. Whereas 6 months ago, 9 months ago, you probably just throw out a price and hand them a CMA, tell them to list it at $450, and they agree because they're happy, and off they go. But now you're going to have to be a little bit more deliberate in getting them to come down to a more realistic price point. Same thing goes for cumulative days on market. You want to ensure that your seller understands what it looks like on average for homes that are comparable to theirs. That way, when it doesn't sell after a single weekend or 2 weekends, they're not breathing down your neck and looking to fire you because the home hasn't sold in 14 days. Make sure they understand what those averages look like and what the high and low is as well. That way they have some kind of a radar to be using for how long their home is on the market. Same thing goes for the condition. In the past, 6 months, 9 months, 2 years, homes that were in slightly less good of a condition were selling for the same amount as homes that were in a superior condition. And we're kind of coming out of that phase now where buyers are going to get concessions for condition, whether it's repairs, lower price points, closing costs, whatever it is. But if the home has, dilapidated siding, or the carpet's in really poor shape, or the landscaping is in disrepair, whatever it is, make sure your client understands it because they're going to get caught off guard if when offers come in they're $10,000 lower than expected because they thought their carpet was in perfectly acceptable shape. So you want to communicate these things to them early and often, so that they have the right expectations. Last thing, in terms of expectation management, is understanding that, getting your seller to understand, and you for that matter, that a little bit of this power the sellers have yielded over the last couple of years is now shifting back towards the buyers. So sellers can, no longer make some of these, crazy demands that they were requesting of buyers. They're going to have to acquiesce a little bit. They're going to have to give concessions. They're going to have to let buyers, have more than 2 hours to respond to a counteroffer. Otherwise, they're going to walk away. Like, those days are largely looking like they're going to be over now. So there's a little bit more balance there between the two parties. And sellers who don't understand that, who think they still have the power, are going to be really disappointed throughout the process if they're continually having to make concessions and negotiate, if that's what they thought wasn't going to happen. The second part I want to talk about today is your processes and how, this additional time on market is going to cause us as agents to have our systems even better dialed in than perhaps we've had them previously. I'm sure your business is just like mine, where for the last 2 years you put a listing on the market and it's getting 10 showings in 5 days and 3 offers, and that's that. Everybody's happy campers. Sellers are anyways. As we kind of come out of that phase, you're going to have to be more accountable to your sellers so that they understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and they understand that you're working hard for them. So kind of a couple pointers there. Number one, have your showing feedback process dialed in. That's both for how you're soliciting feedback from the showing agents and buyers, and then how you're then communicating that feedback to your sellers. Sellers like feedback. Even though a lot of the time that feedback isn't useful, sellers want to know that you are actively getting feedback on the properties. And if it is actionable, of course, implementing that actionable feedback. The next is having, as an agent, a very specific reporting system for what your marketing efforts look like. And this is different for everybody. Maybe it's weekly, every 10 days, every 15 days. Some kind of report that you're providing to the seller that says, here are the places that we've listed your home for sale. This is the kind of syndication we're doing. Here are the demographically targeted Facebook and Google ads that we've run on your behalf. How many clicks they've gotten, how many views they've gotten, how many leads they've generated. Here are the agents we've talked to from the reverse prospecting list. Whatever that looks like, have that system dialed in so that you can send that to your seller on a regular basis. Kind of on the same topic there is some kind of a weekly or 10-day or 14-day check-in where you're telling them from the beginning, hey, I'm going to call you every Friday, or we're going to talk every 2 weeks about the status of your listing. Last 2 years, at a lot of price points, you really didn't need to do that because after 3 or 4 days on market, you're getting multiple offers. And now you got to re-engage that system a little bit. And kind of the last point I would have for you is sellers are keeping dibs on their competition, and you should be too. So go into your favorite portal, into your CRM, whatever, mark the most similar active homes for sale as favorites, so that when those homes have price reductions, go pending, sell, whatever, you're notified. Because if your subject property is still on the market and the neighbor's house, which is comparable, went pending and yours hasn't yet, you want to find out why. And the sellers are wondering why, and you should be wondering too. So you want to dial in that system as well. All right, there you have it, a couple pointers to help with expectation management and processes in the changing market. If you have any questions, feel free to check out our careers website or give us a call.